We're going to label this as lesson number 1 on our new series on Master Course. This is a writing by A.K. Mozumdar that was written in 1930. And as I've shared it with most of you, if I have your email address. And he has a heading under this course, and it reads, "The Absolute Never Failing Method for Spiritual Healing." And I'll repeat it. The absolute never failing method for spiritual healing. And most of you have had this article for about 2 weeks now, at least. And that means that most of you have had a time to review it, hopefully. And if you did so, then you are prepared for the theme for tonight's lesson, which is really an adaptation of his writings. What I am doing here is hopefully serving as a facilitator who has gone before you and prepared the way for your understanding of what I believe for 99.9% of you to be a new revelation. So I'm leaving room for the fact that some of you may know as much as I think I know about this idea that is being brought forward. And I will be very clear with you to let you know that what I am seeing in this lesson is relatively new for me. I certainly have not seen anything in it that I didn't already know. What I mean by that, what is new is a new level of understanding from a deep, deep, deep revelational experience, in the sense that my teacher has been with me very closely in an intimate way of revealing to me the deep, deep inner meanings of what I believe was in the consciousness and in the mind of the author, A.K. Mozumdar, when he wrote it. And along with another spiritual guide who is with us, and that is Taniguchi, also Quimby. And I'm going to welcome their spirit here in with us, with the Holy Spirit as being the guide, and know that your angels of help, your helpers are with you, and your primary helper, the Holy Spirit, is in your mind, working through your mind in concert. And we're going to have a wonderful healing experience. And that healing first is the healing of the mind. And by extension, I am affirming and knowing and agreeing with you, as I know you're agreeing with me, that healing flows in and through and across every other level of your livingness, wherever there is a need for a breakthrough, whether it's in the body or whether it's in finances or whether it's in relationships or in your aspirations, something that you have as a goal that you're reaching for. And that healing still resolves back to healing the mind, healing your belief about whatever it is that is there, serving as a block to the manifestation of that idea, dream, goal, vision, prayer, request, or whatever it is. That can happen just by your simple processing through this class. In reading I have a book by Taniguchi. I have several of his, but the one where this lesson comes from, the title is Magic of Truth, The Magic of Truth, Volume 1. It's a series of books, and that is Volume 1 of the series, The Magic of Truth. I remember reading in it where he cited where someone had asked, why is it that Mary Baker Eddy stopped working with people in person or personally in healing. And he said that she was at a certain age, and she said, well, people should depend upon my writings, because she was a prolific writer, and she had written keys to the scriptures and other books. But she just said that, if you follow my writings, you can experience and demonstrate healing. Well, that's exactly what we're doing here. We're following the writings of A.K. Mozumdar, expecting that we can get from him the same as if he was sitting right with us in person. That's what I do believe. Lesson number 1 from his master course, and the title of that course, that lesson is the absolute never failing method for spiritual healing. He begins by saying, it is the meaning which we give to a word which gives it power. Otherwise, a word has no power of its own. Back of all sacred words are sacred meanings given by the originators of these words. The words that I want to emphasize in this lesson are 3: matter and ether and the cosmic ray. The cosmic ray. I want to remind you of something that you read, if you read the master course that I sent to you 2 weeks ago, which consists of about under 30 pages in the email transmission. And if you paid attention, there was one word and phrase that was emphasized to me more than any other throughout those pages. And it's a 3-word phrase, idea, or concept. And it is the cosmic ray. If you read it from the consciousness that I did, then you would think that the title of the article would have been, or really could be, the cosmic ray. Reread it and you will see how much he emphasized the cosmic ray, and how clearly and definitely he not only defined, but explained and described the cosmic ray in a way that you could just get into the essence of it. I'm going to take you to a higher place from emphasizing this cosmic ray. But what he didn't talk about was matter and ether as much as he did the cosmic ray. So why do I choose these 3 words? Matter and ether as the cosmic ray. It is because of my history, background, and evolution of consciousness that I could perceive that as he explained and described and defined the cosmic ray, that he was also explaining, describing, and defining matter and ether from the same consciousness that Quimby and Taniguchi had written about in their writings. And they all, I don't know about what Quimby wrote much earlier than they, but Taniguchi wrote about the same time as Mozumdar did. And his article on ether was written around about 1930 also. So they have a a comparative analysis here of these terms. And so what I have done here is bridge the seeming gap wherever a gap may have been. Because, you know, I talked a lot about in my studying these writers, how I used to be bogged down in what I was perceiving as seeming contradictions, and I couldn't necessarily reconcile these terms. And also at the same time, I didn't have a teacher who I could turn to, or even who I could listen to, and who I could, where they seemed to crack the code or interpolate or translate or, you know, or explain these differences. I had to grow into that on my own. And so that's what this lesson is about here, is bridging the gap. Let me reread what he said here. It is the meaning which we give to a word which gives it power. Otherwise, a word has no power of its own. Back of all sacred words are sacred meanings given by the originators of these words. And so what you're looking for is, what does Mozumdar mean when he says the cosmic ray? What does Taniguchi mean when he talks about the ether? And I want you to see that he's seeing the same thing that Mozumdar is saying when he talks about the cosmic ray. And Quimby is saying the same thing as both of them are saying, although Quimby's language is so much different. Mozumdar goes on to say, the vibration of a word is determined by your mental vibration, which is regulated by the realization of the meaning which you give to the word. What am I doing here? I am giving you a meaning to these terms, matter and ether and the cosmic ray, for the purpose of your spiritual empowerment, development, and developing a magnetic consciousness, lifting your mental vibration up to the level of the original intent behind the originators of the words, terms, all the way back to the beginning that the terms represent. Listen to what I am saying. And what is happening here is the next sentence. Your vivid imagination. What this lesson is doing is helping you to develop a vivid imagination that you will be using in the process of your prayer work and in your meditation. It will increase your vivid imagination. It says, your vivid imagination, to the effect that a certain word will still have a certain effect, is invariably produced on them on account of that belief. Now you have this article. I need you to reread that sentence, not tonight, but in your meditation and study, meditate on it. Even the voice we speak in ordinary conversation cannot have any power unless we give specific meaning to them. There are two kinds of faith: simple faith and illumined faith. Simple faith, Mozumdar says, gives a quality to a thing and accept it without question. However, there is illumined faith. Illumined faith is based on actual knowledge of a thing. In our lesson that you're receiving here, we're dealing with exact knowledge of the law. Our faith in healing is illumined faith. That's what you're receiving here through these lessons, is knowledge. Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. You shall not know about the truth. You shall know the truth. I'm taking my time, and I'm taking you deeper and deeper and higher into knowing. He says, you should bear in mind, student, that we use the following terms interchangeably. What terms? Well, other related terms relative to the cosmic ray, more synonyms to the cosmic ray, other words that are used meaning the same as the cosmic ray, words such as the final substance, words such as divine energy, spiritual substance, or the creative substance, and you can name a number of others that are like synonyms. They are, however, one and the same. And this can be confusing. Prior to tonight's lesson, I think it's very possible, very probable, that you have somehow processed these using these names, and your mind kind of wanders off to different paths of trying to associate different meanings to these, of different and various meanings to these terms, and really trying to apply them in different ways, thinking that they actually have different meanings because they are so distinctly different and used sometimes separately. And you might find articles on them, talks on them, and books on them under those singular terms, those separate terms. And therefore, subconsciously, if not consciously, you're thinking that they have different meanings. And that's so distracting. And that can just take you down wandering paths. That's what has happened to me in the past. That's been my story. I thought they had different meanings, but they are all one and the same. The healing substance and the substance out of which this body and all other things are made, your body, my body, the healing substance and the substance out of which your body and all other things are made, and the cosmic ray are one and the same. Meditate on that in your meditation time and see how it resolves back to principles or a principle that you already know. Now, you already know it, but we don't practice it. We get into separation. Let me reread it. The healing substance and the substance out of which your body and all other things are made, and the cosmic ray are one and the same. The more you extend your knowledge of all being and things as being of one substance, the more radiant you become. Your mind automatically breaks down all personal barriers and limitations. A magnetic personality is not only a drawing personality, but also a radiant personality. See, Jesus had this example that he's talking about of a radiant personality. And the reason he had this radiant personality is that he knew and he demonstrated all the above that we just talked about. Realizing that not only his body, but all things were made of this one substance. He realized that the creator of all things, animate and inanimate, conscious and unconscious, emanates from this one substance. Therefore, there is this essence of itself in all things, animate and inanimate, conscious and unconscious. Therefore, he could draw it, and that is the reason, the foundational principle and the reason that you can draw all things to you. And also he's going to tell how you can also repel. He says, your personality, and you could also change that word to this personality that I just described, your personality becomes highly radiant when you mentally touch the highest vibratory substance. And this is the substance that we're talking about, the cosmic ray, the finer substance. When your whole being is charged with the power of God, the divine substance, the power of God, the cosmic ray, the power of God, this finer substance that we're talking about, your drawing power increases. Therefore, you should not only see the cosmic ray, but also draw it to you in order to charge your whole being. When you imagine that your whole body and mind is charged by the cosmic ray, it is really changed. What is really changed? Your body and mind is really changed. Like inhaling air, you should draw the cosmic substance with your mind. Now that is exactly the shift in consciousness that takes place in your mind and life by way of this lesson tonight. That's what the lesson is about. This is the change that should occur, or that is occurring in your life and in your mind right now, if we are applying it right now. Like inhaling air, you should draw the cosmic substance with your mind. If you've been listening to the lesson, we are not going to start applying the lesson at the end of the lesson tomorrow, or as you meditate and study these lessons later. It is happening right now. Like inhaling air, you should draw the cosmic substance with your mind. In the above mention about the cosmic ray by Mozumdar, when he mentions the cosmic ray, he also mentions other interchangeable terms. In mentioning those other interchangeable terms related to substance, you notice that he does not include matter. He does not include ether. So I've used a working topic here, matter, ether, as the cosmic ray. Taniguchi, in his writing, speaks fundamentally about matter and ether. But he does so as it relates to spiritual substance. And he talks a little about the other terms, the cosmic ray. He doesn't mention the cosmic ray. Mozumdar does. I said Taniguchi speaks fundamentally, he emphasizes matter and ether. Dr. Holmes gives a clear explanation of matter and ether. He doesn't talk about cosmic. whatever as Mosendar does. But what he says compares very closely to Taniguchi's explanation of this spiritual substance, as he talks about matter and ether. Now, Dr. Quimby, who wrote much earlier than that, his explanation of matter changes as it is used in different applications. If you're not really up on it, you can really get confused by Quimby until you read it and, let go of the mind of thinking that it's a contradiction and looking for the same of it, which is in it as I did. Then I was able to rise above that. Dr. Quimby speaks more thoroughly about matter more than he does ether or other forms of this substance. And his explanations can sometimes be ambiguous, as I said. And I don't recall him talking about ether at all. But what I am doing here is bridging the gap. I'm simplifying it and showing you the sameness that's in these terms. The quote in the Quimby manuscript by Quimby reads this way: "The basis of Dr. Quimby's theory is that there is no intelligence, no power or action in matter of itself. That the spiritual world to which our eyes are closed by ignorance or unbelief is the real world. By spiritual matter, Dr. Quimby, it says, does not mean the matter which is visible to the natural eye, but a matter which can be changed into any form which a person chooses, but a matter which is intangible, which can be changed into any form which a person chooses. This mind," because Quimby called the matter mind, "this mind or matter surrounds every person." So, going back to Mosamdar's words, he says, the people whose imagination is not yet very strong achieve the same result by mentally drawing the cosmic ray while inhaling. But under no circumstances should they inhale with the idea that they are breathing in cosmic ray. They should bear in mind they are adopting this means only to stimulate their mental action. Any physical means of drawing the cosmic ray will lower your mental vibration. The most practical method of developing a spiritual magnetic personality. That's a heading in that writing that you have. That's a topical heading. And below that, he's giving you the most practical method of developing a spiritual magnetic personality. First, mentally, not physically by inhaling, but mentally draw the cosmic ray in order to change your body and mind. Then, with your mental eye, see yourself and others in the all-pervading, downpouring cosmic ray, and imagine that they are being drawn to your spirituality, your spiritually charged personality. It will, without fail, develop spiritual magnetic personality. Now, Ernest Holmes says this. Remember, Mosendar calls it, which is the same thing, the cosmic ray. Ernest Holmes says, ether is a universal medium, which is supposed to be the last known analysis of matter. It interspheres all things and all space. Keep in mind that we're talking now about a different term used to explain the same thing, the cosmic ray. So when you are studying What I'm doing is helping you to use this material that you have and read it from a different understanding that you read over the past 2 weeks. When you study it now, you're looking for a different meaning, and you're looking for and growing into a different meaning behind the terms that you read going forward. When he's talking about this cosmic ray as it appears in all things and so forth and so on, perceive it also to be this ether that Ernest Holmes is explaining here. And perceive it to be the same as Quimby is talking about this spiritual matter. It's the same. Ether, Ernest Holmes says, is a universal medium, which is supposed to be the last known analysis of matter. It interspheres all things and all space. This is helping you with your vivid imagination in your meditation and in your prayer work. And what it is doing is increasing your mental vibration, your drawing power. Ernest Holmes goes on to say, the fine particles of matter or electrons are supposed to be cemented together by the ether. Ether seems to be to the material world what mind is to the mental world. What? A universal medium. And he goes on to conclude, Ernest Holmes does. The last analysis of matter resolves it into a universal ether and leaves nothing more than a stuff which may be operated upon, a force and energy without volition, ready to become molded. Okay, so I'm coming to a close, and this was written by myself this morning in preparation for tonight's class. And this is what flowed through my mind as a recap of what we're talking about here when we use these terms, or as we clarify these terms, matter, ether, and the cosmic ray, and seeing them as the same. But there is no use for this lesson here if we're not seeing it in the context of while we're studying it, to be able to use it more profoundly in our prayer work, in our meditation, and in our prayer. What you are now vividly imagining as you're using these terms, and as you're sensing and feeling that which is happening right now, and doing your work in the spiritual world, and seeing how these, what you're not getting from this lesson, but in your material that you have already studied in preparation for this lesson, you are now seeing how even to the finest particles of electrons and molecules, and how things are being created in that spiritual world, in that ethereal world, in that world of space, in that world of emptiness. Something is going on, and that is in essence more of the solid world than the world that we are living in here. That's what that material that you have, that you're studying from, is getting you to understand. And so you're learning how to be metaphysicians, philosophers who know how to practice this stuff and use this stuff. I can't do that in this Tuesday night lessons. That's what the material is. Now I'm guiding you through it. And what it is saying when it's talking about the cosmic ray, I recapped it here. The cosmic ray is God's spiritual energy functioning. See, it is the functioning activity of God's spiritual energy. That's what the cosmic ray is. The cosmic ray is God's spiritual energy functioning through the universal creative law of harmony, through life, existing in all forms, animate and inanimate, conscious and unconscious, as it becomes the objective manifestation of God's vision, God's purpose, and God's intention, appearing as matter perfectly formed, retaining and containing the relevant spiritual qualities of God as it expresses God's essence perpetually through all things, animate and inanimate, conscious and unconscious. I'm asking you to meditate on that. Let your mind go slowly and follow those words, word by word, and see if you don't see what I see, but also see if you don't feel that activity going on in your consciousness, and then extrapolate it from that or take it higher, and then observe this kind of dynamic playing out on the screen of your mind on a daily basis until it becomes natural, 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 and not theoretical. Take it out of the theory and bring it into the natural, into the daily practice. That's our goal. That's our goal of the master course. Quimby sort of said it this way, the last words for this lesson. He said, when I talk to the sick, I talk my theory. When I talk to the well, I talk about it. It is so with my religion. I have no religion independent of my acts, ACTS. I have no religion independent of my actions. When I am religious, I talk it and put it into practice. When I am not putting my religion into practice, then if I talk, I'm talking about something. And so I started off where I end up. This lesson is not about something. This lesson and what we're doing is about practicing. It's about doing. My talk tonight, to myself first and then to you, was not about what we're going to do when we finish this lesson tonight, tomorrow, or when we sit and practice reading our material. No. We have been practicing this during this talk. This has been happening in our consciousness and in our mind as we have talked tonight and as you have listened. You have a new and a higher understanding of this one substance that we have been so distracted with by calling it so many darn names. If we had an opportunity to open it up to discussion and let each of us share different names that you called it by and that you used it, and you will, if you will admit, you will share that you've actually practiced them as being different or having some different distinctions. They're all the same. And so there's only one substance. What we're going to do going forward for a practice in some of the meditations that we're going to be experiencing, we're going to settle on this name as the cosmic, the cosmic, the cosmic ray. And when we use that term, the cosmic ray, we know that we're talking about the ether and the ethereal nature of life. We're talking about matter, but we're talking about matter in this expression. We're talking about that highest, finest essence of this substance called the spiritual substance. Amen. And so it is. And so it is. You can unmute yourselves.
Reverend Ahman, that was just beautiful. I'm putting together what you just said tonight with conditioned mind and unconditioned mind.
Absolutely.
As you said, two things. So the ether or the cosmic ray affects me by my vibration. So if my vibration, when I use certain words, is coming from a high thought, then I think I got it. I got it.
Well, let me tell you why I'm glad you shared that, because this is just it's a brief lesson, so it just can cover everything. But what was covered in that, without naming everything, when I said that there's so many different names, well, the unconditioned mind is one of those names, is one of those terms. But if we could go on and on and on, we could come up with so many different terms that we've used. But the problem is that when we vary, when we go off on these different paths, and we unknowingly or unconsciously use these different terms as though they are different terms, in the sense that they have different meanings. They don't have different meanings. They mean one thing. It's still talking about the one substance. But when we follow the track of using them with different meanings, then we start applying it specifically for different uses. We use this for this, we use this term for this matter. We use this term in this matter for this thing. You see how distracting that is?
It's just one. It's one. Nothing's good or bad. It just is. And if unconditioned mind allows that spirit to work in the way that it's supposed to, instead of giving me what it was that my conditioned mind already assumed that it was.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, I'm glad that you were there tonight. And so, yes, what I need to remind you is that I sent the article also by Taniguchi. I think it consists of 25 to 30 pages, and I blocked it off like I did the master course. It wasn't ready to send you when I sent the other one, but it takes a few weeks for me to get it in that format to share it with you. So I finished it over the last couple of nights. And so I just sent it just before the beginning of tonight's class. So you have Taniguchi's article on the emptiness of matter, is what he called it, the emptiness of matter. And when you read that, you're just going to be just as enthralled as you were when you were reading the master course for the first time. These writers are awesome. And you're going to see how close, how comparatively close their writings are. Taniguchi about ether, as Mozendar is about the cosmic ray. So close.
Reverend, yeah,
yes.
I like to share. First of all, I appreciate you. You are giving us more and more power tools, and I think I'm going to have to get a bigger toolbox. It's amazing. But I was getting so sick last week, developing an infection, that I was afraid I was going to have to go to an emergency room. But I sat with this material, particularly on page 14, where he says, imagine that your whole body and mind is charged by the cosmic ray. And I was bouncing back and forth between that. And from today and tomorrow, the note where he says to vision the superconscious lighted and living presence is within your mind and body and radiating in all directions. And at the same time, knowing that I'm just organized energy and all this, and that at that place in my body where I'm afflicted, that radiated presence is there, and it is that presence which he tells us to hear saying to me that I am healing you. And I had one of the most profound meditations I ever had due to these tools you have given us. And as the weekend went on, I got better and better. And I think in most cases, most people would have ended up in the emergency room, but I ended up really much like I'm feeling well today. So thank you.
Amen. All right. Thanks for sharing. Great. Anybody else before we conclude tonight? Okay. Well, see you next Tuesday at 7. I'll start the session at 7:05. Remember, you have two documents now, the Master Course by Mozumdar. Now you have Matter as Emptiness by Taniguchi. And you're going to find that you really can't put it down. Amen. And so it is.
And so it is.
I fast and I pray.
Page 2.
Oh, page 2, yes.
Me too. I fast and I pray.
Oh,